Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Brian back with another review of the Ryobi 7 1/4 inch 18-volt cordless compound miter saw. That's a lot of words to spit out. I'm a very basic DIYer here at home, and I do some wood projects here and there out in the yard. I don't have any complex needs, and I'm not doing intricate precision work with wood. So I was just looking for something that kept me from having to go down into my basement to make cuts, come back up, check it. Oops, I need to make another cut, bring it back down to the basement. I wanted something that I could have at the job site, so to speak, which is my backyard, that I could just carry around and put down on the ground, for example, and make some cuts. So I'm going to do a product review of this. My wife did get it for me for my birthday, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions at the end. So without further ado, let's dive right in and take a look. So if we take a top-down look at the saw, we'll see first off, this is where your battery compartment is. Plug in your standard 18-volt ONE Plus Ryobi batteries here. I've heard people using 4 amps and 9 amps. The one I'll be testing with today is a 4 amp. You'll notice the D grip handle here. There's a trigger to squeeze to engage the blade. There's also a safety switch right here that you push in, so you'll basically push this in and squeeze the trigger. That'll engage the blade. There's a blade stop switch right here. You'll notice the blade guard here. If we take a look at the back of the saw, we're going to notice that we have the lock pin. So if you push the saw down a little bit and pull this lock pin out, it allows the arm to come up. So we'll re-engage that just for now. You'll also notice that you can set bevels here. And this knob basically allows you to loosen and tighten so that you can change whether or not you're using a bevel cut or not. And the bevels are 0, 15, 30, and 45. You'll also notice a dust collector bag here with a spring-loaded mechanism to install that. We'll see how well that does when we actually do some cuts. If we come around to the other side, we'll see that there's a little work clamp here that you can basically just take out. There's a hole for you to put it in. And then you can basically loosen and tighten this accordingly based on the material that you're using. There is a matching hole on the other side in case you wanted to put that on the other side of the saw as well. You also have the ability to adjust the fence. There's a little screw back here that you just loosen or tighten, and then you can slide over to adjust the fence, maybe for cutting smaller material. And here's just another view of that fence adjustment. And just to show the bevel capability, I'm going to loosen that up on the back here. I'm also going to push down and pull out the lock pin so that the arm comes up. And then you'll see that I can set the bevel to the various measurements that are available. As I said, 0, 15, 30, and 45. I'm going to put that back to 0 and just tighten it up so that it doesn't move. Down here you have your miter setting. You'll notice there's really nice grooves, so these stops are pretty aggressive. And I've heard from other reviews that out of the box, this pretty much cuts perfectly square. But all you do is loosen this knob here, push down this lever, and then move to another stop. For example, 15 degrees, 22.5 degrees, 30, 45, and same for this way as well. And obviously, when you're at the angle that you want, you're going to go ahead and just tighten this knob back up. If you take a look, you can see the blade here. Again, this is a 7 1/4 inch blade. Okay, so to start out with, I'm going to go ahead and install this 4 amp hour battery. It's fully charged. And I'm going to then go ahead and push down on the handle and pull out the lock pin in the back and then bring up the saw arm. So I'm going to go ahead and push in the safety switch and squeeze the trigger that I showed earlier. I'll say it is pretty instantaneous as far as having it spinning at full speed. So let's go ahead and give it a try on a 2x4 to start out. So I have a 2x4 here. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a test cut. Nice clean cut. Let's check and see whether it's square or not. So that looks pretty dead on, 90-degree cut. So let's do a couple more cuts and see if it feels like it's bogging down at all as I'm doing the various cuts. I'll also point out that, like other saws, there is no actual laser or any type of a light that gets projected down onto the wood with this particular saw. So you don't really get to see exactly where it's going to cut, but you can easily just do it the way you normally would by bringing the blade down to the wood, and you'd obviously likely have a mark on the wood that you've measured. But let's go ahead and do a few cuts to see how well this performs. Okay, so that one there, I did 2 cuts and it actually stopped. I didn't stop squeezing the trigger, but it actually stopped spinning. I'm not sure why. So let's give it another test. Okay, so as you can see, I've made various cuts here. Could make a Jenga set. Made various cuts here. I do feel a little bit of bogging down if I go too fast, but if I take my time and cut through, it cuts pretty cleanly and pretty quickly without a lot of bog down. One thing I did observe while doing this is there is quite a bit of sawdust that went around. And if you look in here, a lot of sawdust did fall down inside of here. It is supposed to go into here and then into the collection bag that's on the back of the unit. One cut I'm curious as to whether or not it will be able to make is a 2x4 flipped up on end. So let's go ahead and give that a try. I'm guessing because of the small size of the blade, it will not make it all the way through. So as you can see, it stops right there, so you would have to flip it over and finish the cut. So the next cut that I'm going to try is a 2x6, which I know because of the size of the blade, it's not going to be able to make it all the way through on its side or up on its end. So just going to show how it cuts through the 2x6 though. And this one I'm going to use the work clamp here, and you can see that I can just go ahead and put it over the piece of wood and then tighten down the knob. And that actually tightens down pretty good. The wood doesn't move. I'll go ahead and engage the saw. Next piece of wood that I'm going to try, these are basically stakes that you can put in your yard. You can kind of see how the dimensions of that look here. I haven't taken any measurements of these, but these are also pressure treated, so I'm curious how well it will do cutting through pressure treated wood. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece. Like butter. So I'm curious whether I can cut through 2 pieces of this at the same time. Okay, so it wasn't able to cut through 2 pieces. It's like literally almost there. So one of the things I want to highlight too is with regards to using this to actually make cuts, for example, for baseboard trim. I don't actually have any scrap trim to use in this video, but I do have this scrap wood that kind of resembles some trim, just as an example. I want to make 45-degree cuts on each of the 2 pieces so that I can make inside corners, for example, for a wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first piece and place it up on the saw here. And then I'm going to change the miter to 45 degrees to the left. And when I do this, you'll notice that I can come down and make the cut. Now when I go to do the other piece, if I go ahead and just move it to 45 degrees on the other side and take my wood here, what ends up happening is the motor of the saw will actually hit the top of your wood before the blade goes all the way through. And that's because of the limitation of the blade only being 7¼ inches. So what we want to do is we want to actually set the bevel to 45 degrees and down here to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to 0. I'm then going to come to the back of the saw and just loosen this bevel adjustment knob. And I'm going to just rotate the saw to 45 degrees. You'll see the 45 degrees on the label here. And if we put the two pieces together, we'll see that that's a nice clean match up there. Our 90-degree angle, and these would be able to be nailed into place as your baseboard trim, for example. So, what are my thoughts overall on this particular saw? As I stated at the beginning of the video, I'm a DIYer. I'm typically doing projects around my yard, typically using 2x4s. Occasionally I'm using fence panels that are a little wider. But one of the things that I really don't enjoy is constantly going up and down stairs from my basement to use my larger saw downstairs to make simple cuts for the projects that I'm working on. So for me, this saw actually fits the bill for what I needed to do. As you saw in the video, there are some limitations with regards to the blade only being 7¼ inches, and you have to flip wood that's bigger than a 2x4. You can't cut 2x4s on its end. You're also going to run into some problems doing miter cuts just using the 45-degree angles on the bottom of the deck there. You will have to use the bevel feature of the saw to make some of those additional cuts. So if those are things that you're going to find annoying or irritating, I would recommend that you look at a different saw, or Ryobi actually makes a different saw that is a sliding compound miter saw that has a 10-inch blade. So you might want to look into that particular product as well. But for me, this does the job and I'm very happy with it. One thing I don't understand is you can see all the wood that I've cut here, and I'm going to show you a quick video of all of the sawdust that it produced. And I don't know if I don't have the dust collector bag hooked up properly or what, but it just made a mess. There's sawdust everywhere, yet I have the dust collector bag attached. So I would say for the price, this is a great deal, and it gives you the portability that you're probably looking for if you're looking for a cordless tool. And if I look at the battery itself, you'll see all the wood that I've cut so far, and it's still at 3 bars on the battery itself. And this is a 4 amp hour battery. So I hope you found this content useful. Please click like and subscribe, and I'll continue making content like this in the future. Thanks, and have a great day.